Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and there's a lot happening in the game right now. Halloween game mode just came out for the European server, the NA server actually had it yesterday, but also Wargaming just slipped the Concept 1B into my hands. This is a tier 9 American reward heavy tank for the ranked battles season, and as you can see, this thing is possibly one of the most bizarre looking vehicles in the game. Today I'm going to be giving you my initial opinion on the vehicle and also playing it for the very first time, as the vehicle has no NDA, so you are going to be getting my first ever experiences of the Concept 1B. So before we get stuck into the gameplay, let's see how the Concept 1B statistics hold up against the reward tier 9 American heavy tank, the AE Phase 1, and also the tech tree American heavy tank, the M103. So immediately we noticed that the M103, with its recent buff, has actually leapfrogged both of these vehicles by a fairly substantial amount, about 10% in regards to its damage per minute. And that's because it's firing over half a round a minute extra. The Concept 1B has a 5.45 rounds a minute rate of fire. This is not awful, but it's definitely not incredible. Don't expect you to be able to shoot your way out of situations quickly. If you get overwhelmed, it's definitely where you're going to be one of the more vulnerable tier 9 heavy tanks on the battlefield. So the vehicle actually has APCR rounds as standard with incredible shell velocity, 1,478. This is awesome. That means you're going to be able to snapshot, not have to give too much lead, and if you're engaging targets at decent distances, they're not going to have so much time to be able to change their direction of travel to avoid your shells. The vehicle actually has heat rounds as well, 310 millimeters of penetration. This is actually one of the significant weaknesses of the tank. If we look at the penetration on the AE Phase 1, it's actually 340. And if we look at the M103, it's 340 as well. So this means that the Concept 1B is not going to be quite so good for just slinging the gold and being able to go through those super heavily armored heavy tanks on the enemy team. So be careful with that. It's definitely a disadvantage to have that 10% less pen with your gold, and consequently, if you're engaging a Concept 1B and you feel like you can get about 310 millimeters of effective armor, for example, by angling your mouse turret, you can probably pressure this one, and so take advantage of that. So the vehicle has a standard amount of ammunition, 40. While that's better than the M103, it doesn't feel like it's truly exceptional. You're still going to have to be fairly careful with the amount of AP, heat, and also high explosive rounds that you're going to take in this tank. All right, so now let's move on to the gun handling. How is this 120 millimeter main armament that's capable of doing 400 damage with every shot going to perform? 2.3 seconds aim time. That's the best in this comparison. And it also has nice dispersion values, better than the M103 and on par with the AE Phase 1. And so when we combine best in class, at least for this comparison, dispersion values when you're moving and when you're turning the tank, with also a very decent aim time, this thing's going to have good gun handling. The accuracy is the same as the AE Phase 1, 0.38. Definitely not the best sniper, but also not the worst, as you would expect with a 120mm caliber gun. And I should mention it's just a touch worse than the M103 with regards to its accuracy. So this vehicle actually has really nice gun elevation. It is 20 degrees, and so don't think that you're going to be able to get above this tank. You will be able to do some very nice things to the top of the turret armor, but more on that in a minute. It is going to be able to shoot you if, for example, you're up on a hill and you're shooting down on the tank. It will be shooting you back as well, unlike the AE Phase 1 and the M103, which have 15 degrees of elevation each. I wish they had 15 degrees of depression. That would be sweet. Talking about depression, this vehicle has 10 degrees, which actually means that it's going to be absolutely monstrous on a ridgeline. It should be mentioned, however, that this 10 degrees of gun depression actually stops towards the butt of the vehicle. You see, it's got a big old booty sitting on the back of the vehicle, and so the gun depression gets to very awkward levels, especially over the back where it's only 2.5 degrees. And so if you're engaging this tank and you can kind of lock down its tracks and get behind it, you might be able to face hug it and avoid it being able to actually depress its gun to shoot your weak lower plate or even just shoot down on your hull armor. So now let's talk about the speed, the mobility of the Concept 1B. 45 kilometers an hour is amazing for a heavy tank, and its reverse speed is incredible at 18. This is absolutely bizarre to me that the vehicle weighs 13 tons less than the other two vehicles in this comparison, but has the same engine power as the AE Phase 1 and actually better engine power than the M103. That gives this tank a whopping power to weight ratio of 20.64. That is very good. It's not incredible for a medium tank, but it's not bad for a medium tank. This is way better than a vehicle like the 121, even with the buff, smashes the Object 430U. This is going to be a fast, heavy tank. This vehicle will actually be comparable in mobility to the M48 A5 pattern at tier 10. And considering that when we move on to the armor, you're going to see that it's actually very heavily armored. For a ridgeline, that's a great opportunity for the vehicle. Keep in mind, though, that the weight of this tank means that it will be a little bit vulnerable to ramming. And so if you're playing in some of your big, more chunky heavies, or even some of the more dominant, larger mediums like the E50M in the game, this might actually be a good ramming target if you just need that extra little bit of damage. Whereas I really wouldn't recommend ramming the AE Phase 1 and the M103 unless you're in a super heavy tank. The tank traverse on this vehicle is also significantly better than the AE Phase 1 at 42 degrees, while the turret traverse is it's the same at 32 degrees. So this means that it's going to be able to quickly re-engage targets. It's going to be able to do quick turns around corners. It's going to be able to zigzag with that great power to weight, even possibly slightly upslope. And that traverse speed will mean that it will be able to quickly re-engage you. So don't think that you're going to be able to surround the vehicle for long and put in multiple shots before it's going to be able to bear its gun upon you. So now let's talk about the armor of this vehicle. And wow, it looks like pretty good news. Although you'd think from the M103 that its 228mm of armor would mean that the hull armor of the M103 was god tier, right? This Concept 1B has 130 on the front of the hull, 120 on the side, way better than the M103, and 80 on the rear. The turret armor is 250, 110, and 100 respectively on the front, the side, and the rear. But really, that doesn't show anything unless we can see actually how it performs. So let's imagine that you're not using any gun depression at all on the Concept 1B. How is it going to tank a APCR round with 258mm of penetration, for example? Well, we can see that the whole of the hull armor is going to be penetrated very reliably. The lower plate on this tank is actually 130mm thick, and it's a little bit angled. So don't think if you're in a tier 8 tank or a tier 9 tank that you can kind of shoot down on its lower plate if it's angling like this. Sure, sometimes you're going to go in, but don't expect it to be an easy penetration like on something like a Super Conqueror or a Conqueror is probably the more comparable tank at tier 9. So be careful that the lower plate, when it's angling, actually has about 230mm of effective armor. The upper hull on this low-profile tank will be easy to pen if you face-hug it and you aim down on it, so take advantage of that. But just be warned that if you're playing in your tier 8s, it's still got about 200mm of effective hull armor, and so you're not guaranteed to be able to go through it even if it's not angling. Now let's talk about the upper hull on this vehicle. It has an absolutely bizarre kind of driver's vision-y area here, for I guess the driver's got an absolute bird's eye view in his own little cockpit on the front of the vehicle. So this driver's hatch actually is good when it's angled to the sides, but actually not very good to the front. Now, while this will hold up okay against AP rounds and APCR rounds, I can imagine that as soon as you load the gold, oh yeah, that is a huge weak point to all gold ammunition. Because remember, gold can penetrate up to 85 degrees of angled surface, but it doesn't have any normalization, so it kind of reduces the penetration a little bit. Don't have time to go into detail of that here. All you need to know is that the Concept 1B's driver's hatch is very vulnerable to heat, but if you're only firing AP, be careful if it's using its gun depression, because as you can see, you're not going to be going through that at all. It's not a weak point if it's using its gun depression. In fact, the upper hull goes up to 300mm of effective armor, and if it's angling like this, yeah, not many tanks in the game are going to be able to get through that even with gold ammo. So the absolute bizarre thing about this tank is just how narrow the turret is. It's like this little squashed head, but it's very long. Kind of reminds me of one of the aliens from Alien. Yeah. As if that wasn't obvious enough, right? So this turret is bizarre. It's just such a tiny target. It doesn't have these fat, chubby cheeks on the side that usually you might be able to have a chance of going through against some of the more weakly armored tier 9 heavy tanks, for example. That means that it's a very small target to hit. And so I can imagine that if it turns its vehicle to the side and it's going zigzagging like backwards and forwards on a ridgeline like this, that's going to be an incredibly hard tank to be able to hit. And so that's one of my big tips for the Concept 1B to do that. But be warned that unless you're using your gun depression, yeah, that side armor is actually going to be incredibly weak from the side. So funnily enough, underneath the kind of the neck of the turret, has about 250 millimeters of effective armor. So if you're in a tier 8 tank, that's not going to be very useful. Funnily enough as well, look, it kind of protects this neck with the driver's hatch on the front of the vehicle. And so with the Concept 1B, you almost want to be pointing your vehicle directly towards your opponents. You don't actually want to be tilting it towards the side, because if you tilt it towards the side, then they might be able to put a round below the mantlet into the neck of this tank. And so that is so bizarre, absolute weird kind of armor on this vehicle. It's a very weird one to be able to shoot at. I'm trying to give this in the most basic terms, but really this is one of the most complex armor layouts I have ever seen in World of Tanks. So if the vehicles hold down, yeah, good luck. The mantlet is about 320, so if you've got very high penetration AP rounds, you're probably going to be able to go through that. Heat rounds, they might go through, they might not, depending on the high explosive anti-tank rounds being absorbed by the spaced armor, as heat doesn't do very well against space protection. It does have a bit of a slope on top of the vehicle, but that is very well angled, unless you're above the tank, and then you might be able to take advantage of that. The vehicle also has this kind of crown, this cupola, or the commander's vision port, I guess, on top of the tank, that is a bit weak if you can get a shot into it, but more often than not, unless you're above the tank shooting down, it's going to be a very challenging thing to get. So now let's talk about if you catch the tank from the side. Well, the turret's trash from the side, so if you get the side of the turret here, even regular rounds are going to be able to go right through it. And if you fire heat, yeah, you can kind of penetrate it, even if it's just turning its turret slightly away from you. The real weird thing about this tank, though, is the side armor. It's kind of angled on this upper flap here, but the whole of the side armor down on the hull is actually very good. So even if it looks like it's over-angling its armor against you, it will still have about 300 millimeters of protection. When it's side scraping, however, there are two very weird areas that you can shoot at on the tank. With standard rounds, you can actually shoot right on the corner about here, you can see. And that's where you're trying to aim, is effectively this kind of fighting compartment, or where the turret turns on the hull. You can be able to shoot where, I guess, the central part of the vehicle, a bit like you can against not really a Super Conqueror, actually an FV215B. So you'll be able to take advantage of that area. But be warned, this is still quite a hard thing to be able to hit. And it's not obvious because of all of the space protection and the tracks and the linking system there. If you fire heat, this weak point actually becomes substantially bigger, as we can see here, than it is with AP. So again, load the gold. If it's trying to side scrape against you, you will have a tremendous advantage. One thing that I want to highlight about this model, however, is that it kind of has this, the box on the back of the vehicle, right? And this, when it side scrapes, is actually a significant weak point. If it's using its gun depression, it's going to be hard to hit. But if it's not using its gun depression and its side scrapes, you are going to be able to hit this area here with any kind of ammunition and be able to go in it. So take advantage of that. If you see one of these things side scraping at you around a corner, don't panic, try and hit this area, but be warned that it does have good gun handling and is likely to snapshot and pull back in. Let's think about firing high explosive rounds at a vehicle like this. So the whole of the top of the turret here is actually only 50 millimeters thick, so you will be able to overmatch that with 152 millimeter caliber guns. And I can imagine firing high explosive rounds just above it will be pretty devastating for the vehicle as well, so try and take advantage of that. The vehicle's lower hull is also only 19 millimeters thick, so if you can fire high explosive rounds underneath this vehicle, you will also do substantial damage to it. And those are my top tips for dealing with the Concept 1B's armor layout, because let's be honest, this is a ranked reward. The players who are going to be playing this tank are likely to be some of the better players inside the game, or at least the more dedicated tier 10 players. So if you see one of these on the battlefield, don't take them for granted and try and use everything that I've told you here to be able to take it to him, right? And get the satisfaction out of killing that player who managed to get the ranked reward. All right, so hit points, fairly standard, 1,800. The vehicle actually has pretty good camo for a heavy tank due to its low profile, and the view range of this vehicle is excellent. 400 meters means that I will most likely be taking coated optics or vents even, with a gun rammer and vertical stabilizers on this tank. And in fact, I'm using my T-57 heavy crew. It's perfect because the commander is also the radio operator, so you can have situational awareness and recon. And of course, brothers in arms on the rest of the crew members. The T-110E5 commander works as well if any of you don't have the T-57 heavy. And with bounty equipment and a premium consumable and these crew skills taken into account, even without using coated optics, I can manage to get 466 meters view range. That means I'm going to be able to be a very efficient ridgeline spotter as well. It's not going to help me spot those light tanks with you want to have like 500 meters view range for that. It's still going to help you out on a ridgeline to be able to see people. If you're a free-to-play player, I probably would recommend dropping the vents and using coated optics instead if you want to be able to use this thing on a ridgeline as a bit of a hybrid heavy tank slash holder and ridgeline scout. And really, that is all there is to say. So without further ado, let's jump into the battle and play my first game ever in the Concept 1B. Alrighty then, ladies and gents, the pressure is on. We've loaded in to Westfield. I like this map for this tank. This should be a great opportunity. 10 degrees of gun depression, low profile. The only thing that worries me is that if I want to go into this position and try to use this ridgeline against my opponents, which is what inevitably I'm going to do, I'm a bit worried about them shooting me in the side of the turret, but I should hopefully still be okay. Alright, I'm looking forward to this one. It's not every day you get to play a brand new tank. Will I be successful in the vehicle, or will somebody called Frightened Smurf on the enemy team in the self-propelled gun actually make me very frightened indeed? Okay, YouTube, so this is literally the first time I've ever played this tank. I am super excited about this. Oh, it's always exciting. I feel like a kid at Christmas when I'm getting new toys, when I get to play around with them. I will be completing ranked on, I'm not sure on my free-to-play account, definitely my main account though, and getting this vehicle as well, although this is on my main account. Wow, look at this low-profile nature. Oh my lord, this is an absolute weirdo. What a weird low-profile tank. Look at them all looking at me. They're all like, what's that? What's that tank? It must be QuickyBaby. Wargaming's given QuickyBaby a new tank, and do you see how they're all instantly trying to look for me? Oh, I love the APCR. Oh, that shell velocity. I hate the reload though. It's not a great reload for this vehicle. Okay, so 3 out of 3 so far. Ah, that didn't go in. I should have shot the side of the Emil turret. Bit of a misplay there by me. I kind of wanted to lock down his tracks though. I'm going to try and get this AE phase 1. I'm going to try and get him. Oh, nice. We've got a ricochet off. Oh, this is looking good. But I tell you what's not looking good. The fact that all my team are dying. So I'm looking around. I don't want to get shot by that T-30. I know I'm here to try and test out the armor, ladies and gents, but I don't like this T-30. I don't know about you. I don't know about you. I don't like big boy tanks like that aiming at me. Okay, so far, I love the mobility. I love the low profile nature of the vehicle. I love the fact that I can pull back so unbelievably quickly. Most heavy tanks can't go backwards at 18 kilometers an hour. Even a mouse, which I think has got a very good reverse speed, is limited to 15. And I think that's got an incredible reverse speed. I'm trying to hunt this guy. No, I'm not. I'm going to hunt him instead. Look at that gun handling. Look at that gun handling. Is he going to try and get me again? I'm going to load some heat and try and fire it at the top of him. Ooh, what's this Pantera doing? Bruh, what are you doing, Pantera? Oh, he's dying. Apparently he's had enough. I think he wants to go play the Halloween game mode. This T-30 has me incredibly worried. Wow, I had a bit of latency there. Wargaming has actually made 3 different servers now for the European server. There's EU 1, 2, and 3, which I believe is for the Halloween game. And no! See, I tried it. He tried it, but I denied it. Oh, I didn't deny that. Oh, I overcommitted. Well played, 257. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to switch over here a little bit because this 257's being cheeky. Oh, no, this is really bad. He's kind of got me up. Okay. Beat the baby. How am I going to win this, though, YouTube? Nearly said Twitch. Obviously, I'm most used to live streaming on Twitch, so I kind of get myself into my zone, my mood. I just got to watch out for this T-30. As long as I don't get clapped by the T-30, I'm a happy camper. Okay. The heat is on. Get it? I'm firing a lot of heat. Oh, wow. We're doing okay so far. Oh, AE phase 1 claps me. Artillery misses me. AMX-30 is trying to get me in the side. Am I going to handle this? Oh, he got me in the lower plate. No, we're losing our hit points. Come on, team. We need you to get the AMX-30. That guy's going to flank me in a second. I'll be in a lot of trouble. Oh, that was a really bad shot. Oh, no. YouTube! I think my time has come. Well played, AMX-30. You got your revenge on me. Oh, okay. So, 4,800 damage and 1,200 assistance at the start of the game. And that's in 4 minutes. Yeah, does anyone get the feeling that this thing is absolutely god tier on a ridgeline? The only thing that really held me back was the fact that my team were pretty awful. By the way, never use this position here for the E75 and the T28. Of course, people up there are going to be able to farm them. And even though I tried my hardest to try and stop the enemy team from getting up and getting the presence on that ridgeline and really starting to be able to deal with my team over there, I was unable to. I felt like I was cheeky enough this game. I really took it to them. I definitely didn't play passively. I took my chances. I dodged the T30. Let me tell you my initial impressions. Love the reverse speed. Love the gun handling. Love that engine power. Turret armor seems to be very good right up until you're flanked. I think this is the kind of tank that is going to be absolutely god tier if you can keep your opponents directly in front of you. But that side turret and that hull armor, ooh, that big old booty is, yeah, a little bit of a weakness. Anyway, I'm just going to let this one run down, show you the post-game stats. Let's jump into another game. So unfortunately, our heroes were unable to take that one down, as you would probably expect, with glass cannon medium tanks who didn't manage to win a flank. Now, maybe if they'd managed to win that flank and get round on this new encounter version of Westfield, we might have stood a better chance. So let's just take a quick look at the post-game stats. And also I can show you that this was actually the first game that I played in this tank. How many times do you think I had to do this where I was sitting here and playing the first game every time, right? Well, would QuickyBaby really have had his first game as a loss? Yeah, I'm happy with that. High caliber medal, just great. I fired a few heat rounds here, but we still broke even. Without running a credit booster, but with a premium account, I should highlight, yeah, I'm thinking this thing looks pretty darn decent. And yeah, just to show, yes, that was our first game. 0% win ratio, but 1,643 base experience. All right, let's have another one. Let's see what we're able to achieve in our second game in the Concept 1B. Okay, so we're loading in on Minsk. Minsk. This is going to be brilliant for this tank, right? 45 kilometers an hour top speed. In that last game, you didn't see me use the mobility of this vehicle. What you got to see me do was use the great turret reaction shots and also the good frontal turret armor right up until I was flanked to dominate one of the most epic ridgelines to fight on in the game. Now what you're going to see me do, hopefully, is use the mobility of this vehicle to be impactful and to rush. Now, I really don't think that this tank is the kind of vehicle to go and sit in this kind of a location on the minimap around about the E8 area. If I go here, I think I'm going to struggle. Man, just look how low profile this thing is. This thing is going to be able to find... Nice driving, bro. Nice driving, bro. This thing is going to be able to find some really nice small delves or undulations to be able to hide in. It should be pretty good. Little craters. You know, even little things like this, you can hide behind it. Wow, look at this. Now up to 45 kilometers an hour. Getting there faster than the Super Pershing. I mean, that's not really a challenge in itself to be able to get somewhere faster than a Super Pershing. The Super Pershing, genuinely one of the vehicles that I would probably recommend to use a supercharger on. Supercharger. Wait a minute. Turbocharger, I mean, not a supercharger. Wow, that would be pretty good as well. No, a turbocharger on the Super Pershing to be able to get into position quickly. And look at this. I'm there like the 430. Is this a heavy tank or is this a medium tank? Of course, heavy tanks don't have good camo on the move like medium tanks do, and also not good camo when stationary. So you are going to get spotted by making aggressive plays in a vehicle like this. But maybe it'll be worth it. All right, so I'm kind of worried about the platoon on the enemy team. I think they'll probably have the... Oh, what? Sorry, I was looking over here. They'll probably have the Object 704 at the back, the WZ-120 at the front, and the... Yoy, there they are. There they are. Oh, it's not ideal. Let's try and side scrape a little bit. Let's see if people can find the weak point without watching QuickyBaby's review. Well, so far so good. Take some chances. They might not realize how good my rate of fire is. I might try and get this guy. Okay, he found my lower plate, and he's got his 5120 buddy here. So just like I thought. Alright, I'm not liking that I'm side scraping in this tank right now. Oh, look, they found the side weak point. The T-54s found it already. Okay. Well, I just wanted to show that for you, YouTube. But yeah, he actually managed to find the side weak point. So he was probably there feathering the target to be able to find that kind of green area on the side of the vehicle where you're actually able to penetrate. Well, I probably shouldn't have thrown away those hit points, to be fair, just to show you how the vehicle will be for side scraping, but this is where I really should be, right? Hiding my lower plate, exposing only my turret, and absolutely... Oh, I thought he would go forwards, honestly. Oh, that was a really bad shot by me. My fault. For some reason, I thought he would go forwards and not backwards. I mean, he's just sitting right out in the open, you know? Oh, why did this guy have to side scrape against me there? I was absolutely golden to be able to hit that 430. Now I'm not. Oh, those guys. Whoa, 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 whoa. I might just lock him down and then try and get hull down over here without... Turn my turret to the side to make sure I don't get hit there. And now I should be able to get the guy here like this. Nice. I might actually go pressure these guys. Oh, T-34-2, don't die on me. That guy's kind of nearly over-angling. Oh, mate, can you please fall back, bruh? Maybe I can shoot the guy in the turret. Yeah. I mean, I like the... Can you...
Stop your advance. Acknowledged.
Okay, good. Communication is key.
Enemy armor is hit.
Wow, that is a huge lower plate, isn't it? It really sticks around the corner very far. Be very careful with the lower plate there if you do manage to get your hands on this vehicle. Ah, I rushed it. Talk about rushing it. They're rushing me in a second, right? So I kind of need to side scrape. I kind of don't have time to side scrape though, you know? It's awkward. Here he comes. Oh no, is the 50 aiming at me? Oh, he is. I have to side scrape against the 5120 YouTube. I have to do this. Worried about the 430 flanking me? He's going to try and get me through the car. There he is. That's right. Oh, he did manage to find my vehicle with the gold. Probably shot here. Probably shot the upper hull. GG, well played to that platoon. Good players. The Object 704 has had a really good, impactful play on the other flank as well. And yeah, I would argue that their platoon, with 5 kills between them, probably going to get a few more, were able to do far more than we would be able to achieve. So there you go. Concept 1B. God tier on a ridgeline. Fast to be able to get into position. I probably shouldn't have tried to side scrape as much as I did. And you can see that this tank is actually not a side scraper because of the weak point here. Also, just the fact that the lower plate sticks out so much when you come around a corner. It's a tricky vehicle to be able to work. It's going to take me some time to be able to master it. Still, 3,300 damage. It's not the result that I wanted, but it's an okay result considering the caliber of my team. So all in all, I really like this vehicle. I can't wait to play it some more tonight on stream. I'm going to be testing this vehicle out to the max. I'm just doing 3 times more damage than the rest of my team combined. Yeah, a really good platoon. Look at that. 59% wins on the Object 704. 52, nearly 53 on the 430. And 53% wins on the 5120. And he only did 1,000 damage in that game. That's how careful they were playing against me. Look, even if I'm playing an incredible tank, if I'm playing against very good players in a top tier platoon, playing decent enough vehicles, yeah, you're going to struggle unless you've got a few people to be able to back you up. And while I really appreciated playing with you, Mr. T-34-2, and we had some good communication and we really tried our heart out, I'm going to need more than 500 damage if I want to be able to take that one down together, right? So all in all, Concept 1B, I think this thing's going to be very, very good on a ridgeline. The things that will hold it back are vulnerable hull armor, should we say kooky armor that will be caught out, especially when the vehicle's side scraping. A little bit of vulnerability on the top to 152 caliber AP rounds, or even just people firing high explosive rounds at the top of the tank. But I think the fact that this thing will be so good on a ridgeline, and it's got the mobility to be able to get into position, and also to be able to fall back quickly from a ridgeline with that awesome reverse speed, that this thing looks like a cracking tank. There's only one thing that I really want to say, just in conclusion about this video, and that is, why is Wargaming giving us another tier 9 American reward tank? Just doesn't quite make sense to me as why that is the case. So the AE Phase 1, it was frontline reward. It was the first ever reward for the frontline. It was just last year, right? 2019. Why do we have another American heavy? Like, how many American reward heavies do we need? Why don't we get something novel, something unique, something that might be a little bit more fun as a crew trainer? But nevertheless, all in all, a good tank. It's going to be a bit of a brutal one in the hands of a decent player. Do I think the vehicle's going to be absolutely crazy overpowered and the new tier 9 meta? I don't think I would go as far as to say that. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. But if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments what you think about the Concept 1B. Do you think that this thing is an absolute cracking tank? Or do you think that it is just a bit too kooky and a bit spooky to be playing this time on Halloween? So, as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon. And maybe I'll also get a win in my Concept 1B.